Hey guys, so originally I wasn't going to do a video on DC's FanDome, but we have so much more information now about what the DC movies are going to look like going forward, and I'm really excited about it. So let's talk about it. DC's FanDome. You know, the real reason why I wasn't going to do a video on this is because I didn't know what a FanDome was. It's kind of a stupid name. But they revealed some dope trailers. So let's dive right in. So the first thing I want to talk about is Zack Snyder's Justice League. And it showed some familiar footage from the Joss Whedon Justice League that we got, but it also showed a lot of new footage that completely changes how this movie will go. But first, I just gotta talk about the music choice for this trailer. It's Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah, which is played almost everywhere. And you probably recognize a version of it from Shrek, but this particular version, Zack Snyder actually used in his Watchmen movie, which was one of the more uncomfortable uses of a religious song in a movie. I'll just leave it at that. But they use it here, and I guess it fits because, you know, hallelujah, we're getting the Snyder Cut. Now, for me personally, the Snyder Cut is not something that I've been anxiously awaiting. It's not something that I thought I needed to see because, honestly, I didn't hate the Joss Whedon cut of Justice League. I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was great. I thought that some things looked weird, particularly Superman's face because of the CGI. But I thought as a Justice League adventure, it was fine. But it clearly wasn't Zack Snyder's original intention. And when you watch it in conjunction with Batman v Superman or Man of Steel or any of the other DC movies, it doesn't really fit. The tone is very different. And from what I gather from this trailer, the tone is very much Batman v Superman, Man of Steel, that darker, edgier Zack Snyder tone. And for better or worse, that was his original plan. And while I don't like Batman v Superman as a movie, it's just a complete mess and doesn't do any of the characters justice. I really don't like that movie. And I think the reason I feel that way is because at the time that was presented as the definitive cinematic version of the Justice League and the DC Universe, and that's not really what the DC Universe is. It's a lot brighter and colorful and diverse than what Zack Snyder depicted. And while I don't think that this is a good representation of what the DC Universe is capable of, it can still make for kind of an interesting Elseworld story, which is kind of how I view the Dark Knight movies and Tim Burton's Batman movies. And Zack Snyder, like the others, has a clear vision for where he wants this Justice League story to go, and unfortunately because of personal life issues and studio interference, we weren't able to see it on screen until now. But let's get into what's different. It's definitely a darker movie. The color scheme is a lot more muted, which I thought I would hate, but it actually makes the suits look a lot more realistic than the Joss Whedon version. When he color corrected everything to make it lighter and more saturated, everything looked a lot faker. And I think it's because these suits and designs were made for a darker environment, which we're getting now. And right off the bat, we're shown Darkseid. Now, Darkseid, he looks cool, you know, big gray monster destroying the world. And I really hope that the CGI gets touched up on him, because the one thing that I didn't like about Darkseid is that he looks very CG. And especially compared with what Marvel was able to do with Thanos, Darkseid should look incredible. So I hope they take the time to touch him up, because right now he looks like a video game boss. But that being said, the other Darkseid villains look really cool. Steppenwolf is definitely an upgrade from what we got before. His armor looks like it's alive and it's moving in little pieces. And it kind of reminded me of when we saw Iron Man suit up in the first Iron Man movie and all the little flaps and stuff were clicking into place. But here it looks like Steppenwolf's armor, while it does that, it's actually part of him, like scales, and that's pretty cool. And it makes him a lot more intimidating. And then there was this one shot of this villain. I don't think it's Steppenwolf or Darkseid. He actually looked a lot like Corvus Glaive from Infinity War, but he looked interesting, and I'm curious to know what his story is and how it fits in with Darkseid and Steppenwolf and their relationship in trying to take over the world. But we also get a lot more footage of the Flash and Cyborg. And Cyborg in particular, because he really didn't get that much to do in the theatrical cut. But here we get to see a bit more of his origin story. We see him playing football. We see him interacting a lot more with his dad, which, is that a spoiler? Did they just show what I thought they showed? Did they just show his dad getting destroyed, or was that just like some kind of teleportation? Because that's kind of a big deal, and you probably shouldn't show that in your trailer. But we'll see. But we also have this interesting shot of him fighting his cyborg self. It's like he's not entirely in control of his own body, which was hinted at in the theatrical cut with Aquaman not trusting him, thinking that the mother box that made Cyborg's cybernetic implants is still connected to the enemy. But here it looks like we're going to get more of that and really see that dilemma play out. And on the Flash side, it looks like Iris is going to be in this movie. We see him save her from some car accident. And I think the Flash is going to be doing some time travel because we see time working very strangely when he starts going really fast. And there's some speed effects that we've never seen before. And I can't talk about this trailer without mentioning Superman's black suit. We've been waiting for it. It's been rumored, it's been speculated, it's been confirmed, but now we see it moving in all its glory, and it looks pretty good. Now, honestly, don't care so much about the black suit as I do about his face. And his face looks so much more natural. He doesn't have this big CGI lip and jaw that they use to cover up his mustache when they were doing reshoots. They can just use Henry Cavill's actual appearance, and I think it's going to do wonders for the character. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the Justice League Snyder Cut trailer. I'm not super excited about it because the Snyder Cut was never really something that I crave, but I am curious to see if this is going to be good. Because for me, Zack Snyder has kind of a checkered past in my opinion. Some of his movies are great and classics, and some of his can be a little messy, especially when they go long. But hopefully he'll take his time, iron out all the kinks, and really make something special. And this version is supposedly 4 hours, but it's going to be chopped up into 1 hour segments. Kind of like the extended edition of The Hateful Eight that's on Netflix right now. And I hope that format serves to benefit the movie than hinder it. But moving on, we also got a new Wonder Woman trailer, and this looks really cool. The first shot of this trailer is a very young Diana on Themyscira with the Amazons in an arena, which kind of surprised me because in the comics the arena is best known for the series of challenges that Diana went through to get the Wonder Woman outfit and weapons so that she could leave the island. And she did the entire thing masked, or in some versions under a helmet, so that her mother wouldn't recognize her until it was too late. But in the first movie, they kind of skipped all that, and she just kind of escaped on her own. So maybe this arena is going to be in some way an homage to that. But then we hear the Mandalorian himself, Pedro Pascal, as Maxwell Lord, talking over big screen TVs about how he can give you everything you've ever wanted, which is very Faustian. And if you don't know, the story of Faust is about a guy who makes a deal with the devil to get everything he ever wanted, but then ends up regretting it. And from what I understand, this version of Maxwell Lord is going to be kind of like that. I suspect that he'll be making some deal with a Greek god, maybe Zeus or Ares, in return for power or influence. And I think that's also how Cheetah in this movie is going to get her powers, through him. And yeah, let's talk about Cheetah for a little bit, because she looks pretty cool in her final form, but I don't think we're going to be seeing that for the majority of the movie. I'm thinking that for the first act, she's going to be her regular self, Barbara, no powers, kind of a wimp or a victim. She says she wants to be an apex predator, but doesn't have the power yet. And I think in the second act, she's going to get some power, wear that cheetah print outfit that we saw in this trailer. And then by the third act, she's going to become full cheetah mutant crazy cat lady. And I hope the first CGI is much better than what they did with cats, because yikes. And I still have no idea how Steve fits into this whole thing. Apparently he's back from the dead. It could be a trick. It could be legitimate. Steve seems pretty out of place in the 80s. Again, he was a World War I spy. And now he's plopped in the middle of the 80s and he's trying to fit in. So there is some good comedy there. Chris Pine is always funny to watch. But what I really want to know is if that jet that they're in towards the end of the trailer is going to be Wonder Woman's invisible jet. Because they make a joke about radar picking them up, which Steve has no concept of. Then we see the ship later flying through what looks like fireworks, but the glass is all weird and reflective and kind of ethereal looking, and that's why I'm thinking that's the invisible jet. And if it's not, what is Hollywood's aversion to Wonder Woman's invisible jet? It's a really clever idea to stealthily get from place to place. Granted, the Linda Carter version didn't do it justice. You can see her inside the jet after all. But I think if you made it like a cloaking device, kind of like how the SHIELD helicarriers were able to disappear, it would be really cool. So yeah, that's the trailer to Wonder Woman 1984, and I'm looking forward to this one. I have really no reason to doubt it. Patty Jenkins has definitely proven herself as far as I'm concerned. It looks bright and colorful and optimistic like a Wonder Woman movie's supposed to be. So yeah, fingers crossed that they stick the landing when this comes out. Moving on. Alright, so for the Suicide Squad movie, they didn't exactly give us a trailer. They gave us kind of a behind-the-scenes, kind of featurette-style trailer. And it looks like a lot of fun. If you don't know, it's directed by James Gunn. It may be loosely connected to the first Suicide Squad that we got, but really the connections are going to be minimal. Viola Davis is still Amanda Waller, Joel Kinnaman is still Rick Flag, Margot Robbie is still Harley Quinn, although her suit looks really good. Like, this should be the standard Harley Quinn suit going forward. It looks awesome. For me, it's a perfect blend of the classic animated series Harley Quinn costume, which admittedly does look a little cheesy, and the new modern Harley Quinn look. This seems to be the perfect compromise. And you got Jai Courtney back at it again as Captain Boomerang, who is surprisingly good. I'm not the biggest Jai Courtney fan, but he really sold it as Captain Boomerang. And it looks like he'll have more to do in this one. That's just the returning cast. Aside from them, we have an entirely new Task Force X filled with some of the most ridiculous DC Comics characters that have ever been on the big screen. You got people like Polka Dot Man, King Shark, Javelin, and those are just the ones that I recognize. There's a whole bunch of characters that are super obscure that I've never heard of. But fingers crossed that Nathan Fillion's character turns out to be Arm Fall Off Man, because that's just hilarious, and I really want to see him just rip off his arm and beat someone with it. So yeah, not a whole lot to talk about here. They really just told us about the cast and that this is going to be the biggest film that James Gunn's ever done. And they say it's going to be like a 70s war movie, which is very much what the old school Suicide Squad comics were like, but of course with some comic book flair thrown in. And this may be a weird comparison, but it kind of reminded me of Darwin Cook's Justice League New Frontier, which pretty much served to give an explanation of how DC Comics transitioned from the Golden Age in the 30s and 40s to the Silver Age in the 50s and 60s. Really good book and really good animated movie. You should check it out. But the way that New Frontier depicted people like the Challengers of the Unknown and some of the more obscure or even just flat out silly comic book concepts really felt like it would be at home with this version of the Suicide Squad. So yeah, I can't wait for Suicide Squad. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. Moving on. So we got a new trailer for Matt Reeves' The Batman. And this may be the trailer that's gotten me the most excited out of this entire FanDome. Think about it, the last solo Batman movie that we've had was The Dark Knight Rises, and that was all the way back in 2012. It's been a while since we've had a Gotham City Batman story. And while we did get Ben Affleck's Batman in Batman v Superman and Justice League, we haven't had a solo Batman movie set in Gotham City since Christopher Nolan directed. And I can't wait. I love Batman. I love his rogues gallery. Sadly, I think that there's a lot of Batman's rogues gallery that have either been underutilized or not used at all, or have just been done terribly. But this movie seems like it's going to fix a lot of those things. This is not going to be a Batman origin story, nor is this going to be an older, grizzled Bruce Wayne. They're calling this a year 2 Batman story, where he's already established himself, but he's still meeting new villains. He hasn't seen everybody yet. And in this one, it looks like the Riddler is going to be the main adversary. And if you were expecting this Riddler to be like Jim Carrey or Frank Gorshin, no, this is not the kind of Batman movie where that would be appropriate. This version of the Riddler is a lot more methodical and bloodthirsty. I'd say more similar to how he's depicted in the Arkham games, and maybe to a lesser extent the animated series. And I know other people have said this, but the tone of this movie feels inspired by movies like Seven or Zodiac. You know, those Fincher noir detective movies that deal with crime and serial killers? This is that type of Batman movie. And I welcome it because Batman is the world's greatest detective and his villains are often serial killers, so why not? It seems like a match made in heaven. But the Riddler is not the only villain in this. We also get snippets of Zoe Kravitz's Catwoman, who really isn't Catwoman yet, she's just a cat burglar, but wears the mask that makes it kind of look like cat ears. It's a nice touch. And we get Colin Farrell's Penguin, which, is that even Colin Farrell? It doesn't look anything like him. It just looks like the Penguin, to be honest. And guys, this may be it. We may be getting a really good Penguin in live action for the first time since the 60s. I don't think they're going to make him crazy. It seems like he's going to be a crime boss, maybe a competitor of Carmine Falcone. But I am so excited to be seeing the Penguin again because he's the Penguin. He's a crime boss. He's such a great Batman villain. And he really hasn't been in much. But we'll see. And while I will always hold that Joe Pesci could have been the best Penguin ever, Colin Farrell looks pretty dope. But let's not forget Robert Pattinson as the Batman. He looks pretty good. A little skinnier than past Batmans that we've seen, but again, it's a younger Bruce Wayne, maybe early mid-20s, definitely under 30. And I think he's gonna do a good job. He's come a long way since his days in Twilight. And did you see him brutalize that one thug in the trailer? I don't think he's dead, but he definitely excessively beat him in order to intimidate the rest of the gang, which is a pretty solid Batman tactic. And the last thing that got me really excited about this version of Batman is the look of the Batmobile. We haven't gotten a great look at it yet like we did for Batman v Superman, but this one looks a lot less bat and a lot more mobile. It actually reminded me of the Batmobile from the Batman animated series. If you remember that one, it didn't have a lot of bat. It didn't really have wings or the bat symbol on it or the bat head on it. It just looked like a muscle car that was sleek and tactical and fast, and something that Batman could use to get from place to place without drawing attention to himself. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this version of Batman. It's been a long time coming. I can't wait to get another solo Batman movie. The Penguin gets me so excited. I just want to see a good Penguin on screen again. Moving on. So The Rock is going to be Black Adam. We knew that for a long time. We knew that before we even knew who Shazam was going to be. And now he's getting his own movie. And we didn't really get a trailer. It was more like concept art set to a story. We got some of Black Adam's backstory, which is straight out of the comics. When they animated the concept art, they actually used The Rock's likeness in his Black Adam poses. And everything you've heard about The Rock being a great Black Adam is true. He just looks so much like the Black Adam of the comics, and he's gonna be perfect. But we already knew that. What we didn't know is, what's a Black Adam movie gonna be about? And really, I had no idea. I assumed it was gonna be an origin story, but the longer this trailer continued, I kind of stopped thinking it was gonna be an origin story because they just spelled it all out right there. But what Black Adam is gonna be is the Black Adam versus the Justice Society. Now, if you don't know what the Justice Society is, before the Justice League happened, there was the Justice Society, which is pretty much all the superheroes from the 30s, 40s, and 50s, not counting Batman, Superman, or Wonder Woman. They, for some reason, didn't want to put those big three in the Justice Society, but for this movie, the Justice Society is going to consist of Dr. Fate, Hawkman, Cyclone, and Atom Smasher. And even if that's it, I can't wait to see them take on Black Adam. And from the way the narration sounded, it seems like they're gonna try to convince Black Adam to be a hero and maybe join the Justice Society, which there's no way he's gonna join the Justice Society. He just fights for himself and wants to rule the world, which of course is gonna create conflict, and boom, there's our movie. And I'm pretty excited even if there's not a whole lot to go off of. I just can't wait to see what they do with this setup. And that's about it for the movie trailers, but we did get 2 video game trailers. And if you know me, I'm much more of a movie guy than a video game guy. And I'll play a video game for the same reason I'll watch a movie. If the storyline or the characters are really interesting, I'll play it. But I'm never one for the multiplayer, co-op, or battle royale games because I'm a loner. I don't really have friends to play video games with, and nor do I really want to. I just like to play video games for my own entertainment. That's just me and how I approach video games. And the 2 games that they premiered here are both multiplayer co-op games, the first of which is a Suicide Squad game. I'm really not that excited about this game, to be honest. We've had a lot of Suicide Squad stuff lately. We've had the movie, we've got this new movie coming out, we've got the Harley Quinn series, we had Birds of Prey, and we've got the countless Suicide Squad animated movies. And frankly, I think DC is oversaturating the market on Suicide Squad content because there's so much more to the DC universe than Suicide Squad. But this trailer looked pretty cool, even if I'm not all that excited about it. It's got Harley Quinn, King Shark, Deadshot, and Captain Boomerang, and they all fight differently. There's a lot of flipping around, there's a lot of variation between the different characters. So I'm sure depending on your playstyle, you can choose one that fits you. But for me, I think I'm going to prefer the other game that they teased, which is Gotham Knights, which is pretty much the same format of the Suicide Squad game. You've got these 4 main characters. In this case, it's Nightwing, Batgirl, Red Robin, or maybe just Robin? I don't know, it looks like Tim Drake and the Red Hood. And after Batman's supposed death, they're tasked with protecting Arkham from its villains, and namely, Mr. Freeze, which we see, and he looks really cool. And more importantly though, the Court of Owls. They're this secret underground society that kind of rules Gotham without anybody even knowing. And I think that's going to be pretty cool. And not just because Nightwing is my favorite DC character of all time, but an entire video game where you get to play as him and Red Hood and Batgirl and Robin. It just looks like a lot of fun and a lot of really cool combat options. And that's about it. If you've made it this far in the video, congratulations. This may be my longest video I've ever made, who knows. I've covered a lot of different trailers. This FanDome has been crazy, so much information has come out. And if you've got any thoughts on any of the trailers that came out of FanDome, comment below, let me know what you think about them. There's some really cool ideas that DC is exploring in the next couple years with its characters, and I can't wait to see it. And if you liked this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe for more content, and hit the notification bell to be notified every time I upload a video. And as always, I'm Colby, this is my nerdy talk, and I'll see you in the next video.